Hello, everybody. I was just panicking that I hadn't muted you all, but I have. It looks like lots of people are joining me live today. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I can see everybody's faces on the screen at the moment, but shortly I will be blocking you guys off when I get moving. But happy 2024, everybody. It's great to have so many familiar faces back. And we've also got a fair few new sign-ups this year as well. So do welcome. Welcome to you if you are also a brand new member. It's great to see you into the new year. I'm just going to quickly say a few basics, which I know lots of you are going to have heard me say many, many times before, but mainly for the sake of people who are new here, I just want to reiterate that. In number one, we are only doing half-an-hour classes this year, just so that when you repeat them, they're easier for you to fit into your schedule. So hopefully that is not you feeling mugged off by me, but it is actually part of the plan to help you be more consistent with what you are doing. The only rules that we have with our posture work is that we do not want to do things that aggravate our normal symptoms of pain and tension. So whilst I've programmed this year to kind of start at the basics and get steadily more difficult as time goes on, that absolutely doesn't mean that even the more basic exercises will all suit you. Some exercises hopefully will, but some might make you feel worse, and you have to be the boss of your own body, and you have to stop exercises that aggravate your pain or your tension even a little bit. So you might think, oh, it's fine, I only feel my hip a tiny bit, but that's your body begging you to stop. Because if you push through that hip pain, if you normally have hip pain, guess what? Your hip pain is going to feel worse afterwards. Okay, I will keep going on about this all the time, but until you learn this kind of simple rule, you'll not make any progress with your posture work. Okay, you have to stop things that don't suit you. As time goes on, you're going to gather more and more things that you can do as an alternative. So I'm never going to be watching you guys as individuals on the screen and seeing what you're up to. If something doesn't suit you, just do something that does. Okay, and that's all I wanted to say as my lecture today. And we're going to get started so we can keep the class on track. You're going to need your static back set up. Always have lots of cushions to hand, always, 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 but especially when it comes to your static back. For those of you who don't know what static back is, do not worry, I will be guiding you through that in a minute. And you're going to need a yoga block and a yoga strap, and that is all for today. And before we get started, we are just going to do our standing assessment. So tuning in to how we feel before we begin. And I appreciate I've got lots of layers on today. I am not taking them off for you guys today. I'm sorry about that, but it's freezing in the Peak District and with no heating on in my room, so bear with me. So we're just going to kind of relax everything off, stand up straight, relax our arms and our hands, and just come to a normal standing position. You're not trying to pull your shoulders back or stand tall, because if you're consciously trying to do something, you're not doing it naturally and you're going to be compensating. So allow your body to just be where it wants to be, and just make a mental note of any pain that you have, any tension that you have, and any sense of imbalance in terms of, have you got more weight on one leg than the other? Does your head feel like it's kind of pulling your body forwards? Does your pelvis feel like it's pulling your body forwards? Does one hip feel further forwards than the other? Does one arm feel further forwards than the other? You've got these different layers of things that you can tune into. Pain being the most obvious, tension being the kind of second most obvious, and weight imbalance being the more difficult one to tune into. But all of these things are ways in which you can tune into your body and start deciding whether or not something suits you or not. So we're going to tune into our bodies at the end of today. And if the routine has suited you, you are going to feel better for it rather than worse. But some of you may feel worse
Doesn't mean you're broken, it just means that these exercises haven't suited you as much as other ones will do. So without further ado, oh, I blocked off my clock with my water, 1 second. Okay, we are coming into our static back position, and I'm slightly going to
pull my screen down because I'm not going to be standing up again.
So for static back, lots of you are going to know this already. So if you know it, just get yourself into position, palms facing upwards for me, and you're just breathing into it, watching that you don't have your arms at 90 degrees, have those arms at 45 degrees. For those of you who don't know this exercise, I want you to make sure that you have your hips at a 90-degree angle. So don't have your chair too far away. And that actually goes for some of you who's maybe done this many times before. Make sure that the thing that you have your legs over isn't too far away from you. You want your thighs, or the backs of your thighs, really snug to the object that you have your legs over. You also want to make sure that your legs are propped up high enough that you can fully relax them without your knees flopping to the side. So I don't want you holding tension through your legs to keep them in a straight line with the hip. I want them to be relaxed fully, but in order to relax them fully, you may need to put more cushions underneath your calves. So we're not holding tension in our legs, we're completely relaxing them. We're having a cushion underneath our head, and you may need 2 cushions, you may need 3 cushions, you may need 5 cushions, but what I want is the back of your rib cage on the floor. So lots of you here, if you have an anterior pelvic tilt or a rib cage flare, you're going to have your bottom of your rib cage puffed up off the floor with an arch in your lower back. And that's going to stop your pelvis from changing position. So if that's happening, what you're going to do is increase the amount of pillows that you have underneath your head so that the bottom of your rib cage is really grounded onto the floor. Conversely, there are going to be some people here who have the opposite of a flared rib cage. So if you're somebody who feels like you're very kind of compressed in your front body through your belly and maybe quite long through your lower back rather than compressed in your lower back, you can probably have no cushions at all, because not having cushions is actually going to help you gain a little bit more extension through your spine, which is what your body needs. So we'll be doing static back, I'm sure, more as the year goes on, but the pillows can really make or break this position for people. We're going to stay here for about another 3 minutes, but what I want us all to do now is we kind of started off with our palms facing up, but now I want everybody to put their hands on the sides of their ribs like this. And I want us to really tune into our breathing here. So I want you to breathe into your hands. I want your hands moving because you're breathing so deeply into them. So we're sipping water through our nose, drawing that breath into our diaphragm, which is housed at the bottom of our rib cage. Feeling that kind of side-to-side expansion through the breath, but also feeling how the lower back pushes down and the belly rises up towards the ceiling. And then exhale through the nose, getting the ribs to go back to where they came from. And once again, at your own pace, I'm not going to count your breathing here. I just want you practicing that deep diaphragmatic breathing, using the position of your hands as your cue. Really breathing into the sides of your ribs and feel them moving underneath your hands. And as you do this and feel into that rib movement, you might notice that your ribs feel and move quite differently with your breath. So I think lots of you know that I've been doing breath work much more seriously the last few months. And it's really highlighted to me how differently my ribs expand with my breath. My right side is much more restricted than my left-hand side is, and it feels kind of awkward and unnatural to breathe into that right-hand side. So I have to consciously send my energy, send my breath, send that movement into that side of my rib cage that just doesn't want to move as much as the left. We've got about a minute left here, and then we're going to move on. Keep your legs relaxed. Keep the back of your neck long. Make sure you're not kind of tilting your chin up towards the ceiling. Breathing deeply into your hands. I've noticed for myself that once I really breathe into my diaphragm, my circulation to my hands improves so much. There's a real correlation there for me. So if you guys have got bad circulation, perhaps you'll notice a difference when you start breathing into the diaphragm a little bit more. We've got just over, no, we've got, and that's our 3 minutes. I thought we had 10 seconds, we did not. So we're staying in static back, but we're going to grab our yoga block and we're going to pop it in between our knees. So you're all going to have different types of yoga blocks. Pop the yoga block either the narrowest way or the medium way so that your knees are hip width apart or slightly narrower if your block doesn't quite work out to be perfect. You're going to put your palms facing up this time at 45 degrees, but I want you to keep focusing on breathing into the sides of your ribs. So just because you've moved your hands away from your ribs, I don't want you to forget about that rib breathing. You're going to maintain a constant, gentle squeeze with that block, on the block with your knees. So what you're not doing when you squeeze the block is pushing your knees away from your body. I don't want that hip losing that 90-degree angle. I want the knees staying directly above the hip, and I want the knees squeezing inwards. I don't want you pushing your knees away from your body. You're keeping your belly relaxed, you're keeping your pelvis relaxed, you're keeping your arms and your hands and your jaw and your neck relaxed, maintaining that consistent squeeze with the block and really breathing deeply into those ribs. So we've got 5 minutes here, off we go. Keep squeezing the block. You're not trying to destroy the block. You're doing like a maximum kind of 5 out of 10 level of effort. I'd like for you to feel the muscles that are in between your, in the middle of your thighs. So as you do that squeeze, you're waking up your adductors because you're asking your thighs and your hips to adduct. So we're looking for a chain reaction from the inside edge of the knee through the muscles of the inner thigh, which connect to the pelvis. So as these adductors wake up, if your adductors are normally dysfunctional, if they don't normally work properly, you may notice that you get an increasingly balanced pelvis. So by waking up dysfunctional adductors, we can pull the pelvis into a more balanced and more functional position if adduction of the hip is one of your dysfunctions. Keep breathing. Remember, the knees are not pushing away from the hip. The knees stay above the hip. The knees are squeezing inwards. It's a different movement. The back of the neck stays long, so don't let that chin tilt backwards. You're going to tucking your chin in and giving yourself a double chin. And remember, for those of you with flared rib cages, you need to have as many pillows as you need to keep that rib cage grounded to the floor. If the rib cage is not grounded, for rib cage flare people, it will not, this exercise won't make very much difference for you at all. I had a comment on Facebook earlier from someone that was kind of worried that they had too many pillows and static back. No, if your body needs 7 pillows, that's what your body needs. I'd rather you have the 7 pillows that your body needs than the 1 pillow that isn't giving your body what it wants. We're about halfway through here. Keep squeezing that block. Keep enough work going on in the squeeze of the block that you can feel those inner thighs waking up. Breathing nice and deeply into the belly and into the diaphragm. Relaxing the hands, the arms, and the shoulders. So we've started off with static back position and breathing into our ribs just to get that diaphragm going and potentially start reducing any rotation that might be caused through our rib cage due to diaphragm dysfunction. Now we're going after adduction function, so there's inner thighs waking up, and after this we're going to go after abductor function, which is the outer hips. So a sustained period of adduction as well as a sustained period of abduction, what we're doing next, is hopefully going to make you feel very different when you stand up, much more balanced through the pelvis. Because when we have a balanced pelvis, we have knees that are free, we have spines that are free, we have rib cages that are free, we have shoulders that are free, and we have heads that can actually move back to where they belong, back over the pelvic girdle. Keep breathing, keep those ribs moving, keep the ribs moving out to the sides, up to the ceiling, down into the floor. Keep squeezing the block with your knees, relaxing the feet. So some of you might be doing funny things with your feet here. Keep the feet relaxed. We're not pushing the knees away from the body, which I only discovered that I did about 2 months ago. So I'm always learning myself. And the way that I learn is not through a textbook, it's not through anybody else telling me what to do, it's down to personal experimentation. So people say to me all the time, Ellie, how do you know that? Where have you learned that from? I have learned this through doing this stuff day in, day out for about 6 years, and I learn something new every single day. There is no exercise that can't teach me something. We've got about 30 seconds left here, maintaining that grip, upper body relaxed, back of the neck long. Really feel my spine unwinding here, which is very nice. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Amazing work. So we're going to put the block down and we're going to pick up our strap. What I will say is with this strap version, so we're sliding our legs through our strap and taking the strap just above our knees, about 2 inches. And then you're going to have the strap so that it's like set enough in a circle that when you squeeze out against your knees, the knees do not go wider than hip width apart. So you're going to do the opposite of what you've just done. You're going to squeeze outwards against your strap. Once again, make sure that you're not pushing away with your knees or pushing down with your feet. So you're trying to keep your feet relaxed. You're trying to keep your knees directly over your hips. The movement is an outwards one, and you're holding that outwards contraction. It's not a pushing away with the legs. And sorry, what I was going to say at the beginning, but I thought actually it's probably better to get you into position first, is that one of these exercises might not suit you. So if you're somebody with something like piriformis syndrome, which is an overwork of the deep gluteal muscles, then asking your gluteal muscles to switch on, which is what we're doing in this exercise, probably won't suit that symptom that you have. Working the glutes more is not going to make your glutes become less tired. There's no logic to that. So instead, if you have something like piriformis syndrome, you might want to double up on the time that you had with the block, because the one with the block is asking your glutes to switch off and asking your inner thighs and hips to switch on. So it's like the opposite partner in that movement. So if that's the case, if you notice that one or other of these exercises doesn't suit you, when it comes to repeating these exercises later on in the week, just spend longer in the one that does. If you can do both of them pain-free, then do both of them pain-free, because they're asking a different demand of your body. If you're restricted by pain, you only do the one that suits you. Keep squeezing. You're squeezing the strap hard enough that you're starting to feel the outside edges of your legs wake up, maybe into the sides of your hips here, maybe a little bit of the hamstrings. You are not squeezing your legs out so far that you start rolling your pelvis down into the floor and engaging your abdominals. So if you're weak in your lateral hips, if your abductors don't abduct very well, you may start using abdominal clenching and lumbar flexion to compensate and help that movement out. I want your spine long and straight. I want your belly relaxed. Remember, you're pushing into your belly and expanding it, if anything. It should be the sides of your hips that are waking up. Palms facing upwards here. Keep squeezing out against that strap. Your feet are relaxed. You're not pushing down with your ankles and you're not pushing away with your knees. We're maintaining that 90-degree angle at the hip. The back of the neck stays long. Breathing deeply into the ribs. Get those ribs moving. If you want to, you can put your hands back on the ribs. That's absolutely fine if you prefer that. As you do the breathing, don't forget to squeeze out against the strap. So as I breathed in then, focusing on my breath, I started to release a little bit of pressure through my right knee against the strap. Keep squeezing out evenly, both sides of the strap. Breathing into the diaphragm, in and out of the nose. Good. 2 minutes left here. So this exercise, like I said before, this exercise is using this continued demand on the outside edges of your hips to make a more balanced pelvic position. We're creating pelvic balance through hip abduction demand, but we can also create pelvic balance through hip adduction demand. It's quite likely that one side of your body is going to need more abduction and adduction than the other. So if you have a twisted pelvis, you might have one femur that rolls in internally and you might have one femur that sits externally. And so each side of your pelvis, each femur, each hip needs something slightly different in order to restore that balance. So we're kind of taking a double pronged approach here, because hopefully by doing both of these exercises, you are going to get a more balanced pelvis. Keep the feet relaxed, keep those outside hips working hard, keep the breathing really quite active. Breathe into those ribs, get them moving, teach them the capacity that they have that they've probably forgotten since you've been hunched over your desk or your phone or your sofa or your car for all of these years. We've got 30 seconds left here. Keep squeezing out against those straps, hopefully really starting to feel the outside edges of those hips on fire. If there's any pain, remember, you can either lose the strap completely and have no block, just do static back, or you can come to the block version and spend longer in it, and vice versa. 3, 2, 1. Okay, final exercise. I want you to choose whichever one of these you found was the most effective. So if you prefer the block, I want you to get the block back in between your knees. If you prefer the strap, you're going to keep the strap there. We're going to take our pillows out of the way, unless that then causes us any pain. And we're going to interlink our hands together, our fingers together, put our hands behind our head, and we're going to relax in this position in the upper body whilst continuing to squeeze outwards or inwards, depending on which implement we've chosen, with our legs. What I would say is that if you're really noticing that your rib cage flares up off the floor when you do this, which is a strong possibility, so if your arms and shoulders don't move very well, you might compensate with that rib cage instead. What I want you to do is do this exercise, but do it with the pillow or 2 pillows underneath your head. So you can absolutely still open your arms up to the side with a pillow under your head, but what it's going to do is keep that rib cage grounded. So I'm doing it with a pillow because my rib cage feels so much more grounded when I do it this way. We're going to do 3 minutes here, off we go. So I'm sticking with the strap because I am super weak in the outsides of my hips, and it's really starting to pick up the burn now, to the extent where my body's trying to avoid the burn because the muscles are getting tired. So I have to keep reminding my brain to keep switching on those outer hips. The pelvis stays still. The pelvis stays flat. So it's not rocking backwards as you do this. The lower back and the rib cage are grounded. You're not forcing your elbows to be anywhere that they don't want to be. So your elbows might be quite a lot further off the floor than mine. That's absolutely fine. I'd rather your elbows be off the floor and your rib cage be grounded than your elbows be on the floor, but the rib cage lifting. The rib cage is the priority here, not where your elbows are. So keep the ego in check. Focus on your form. We want the rib cage on the floor. I don't care where your elbows are. It's still going to be doing you good, even if the elbows are really quite far off the floor. So we're continuing to work on our pelvic balance here, but we're also, the whole time that we've been in static back, have been working on rotation through the spine. So if any of you have got like herniated discs or scoliosis or things like that, just being in static back is a really good way of unwinding rotation through the spine. Having our hands behind our head like this is starting to reposition our shoulder blades so that they're going to sit back and down behind us where they belong, rather than in that like hunchy, forward, slumpy posture that we're so used to. Keep the feet relaxed, keep those knees above the hips, keep squeezing out. I was definitely starting to push my knees away from my body then. We've got just over a minute left, and then we're going to stand up, do our standing assessment, and you have completed your first session of our year of posture challenge. But keep going for me for a little bit longer, breathing nice and deeply into those ribs. We're not forcing our arms to go anywhere that they don't want to go. We're focusing on the rib cage, staying balanced. Breathing nice and deeply into the ribs. I have to kind of almost pull my knees back towards me slightly, I think, to stop me from pushing them away. And when I do that, I really feel the outside edges of my hips wake up a lot more. Bit of shaking in that left side, which is good. 20 seconds left here. Just over 10 seconds. Oh, I'm shaking in my left hip. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good job. Relax off. We are finished for today. Nice, short, and sweet. Very easy to repeat, hopefully, at least 3 times more this week. But you're going to be getting a schedule from me in the follow-up email that will kind of spell that out for you. And just before we finish, we'll come up to our standing position, shaking off that tension, feeling like we're standing normally, and just tune in to hopefully how your body might be feeling a little bit different after those 4 exercises. So hopefully a little bit less pain, hopefully a little bit less tension, and hopefully a feeling of being more balanced, taller, more grounded, more open, more free, all of those kind of things that are associated with good posture. But you might not feel better. And if you don't, that's fine. It's just that this routine hasn't suited you very much. So if that's the case, maybe give it one more go this week. But if it still continues to not suit you, then just do something else from the class library until we meet again next week, because we're going to be switching up the exercises and they might suit you a little bit more. But my guess would be most of you are going to feel pretty good after that one, because those exercises do tend to suit most people. I'm just going to pop this onto gallery view when I say goodbye. I can see lots of faces. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to say hi to lots of you at the beginning. So thank you so much for joining me. Familiar faces and new faces as well. As I said, you're going to get an email from me this evening, which is going to have the class recording contained within it. It's also going to get uploaded to the library as normal. I'll do the upload to the library on Tuesday mornings, because that always takes me a little bit longer to do, but I'll get the email out on Monday evenings, and you're going to have a suggested schedule for you to follow. You don't have to do it. You don't have to listen to a word that I say. That's also fine. But if I know that lots of you like that kind of structure and suggested guidance, so it'll just give you something to keep chipping away at as the week goes on. And I'll see you again next week. And for those of you who are doing coaching, I will see you in a couple of minutes' time. So lots of love, everybody. Thanks for joining me, and well done for doing this for yourselves. I will see you soon.